everybody. Welcome back to Rationcast. This is episode 3. Today I will be interviewing Kman. He is responsible for MREinfo.com. Now, I know we've all probably visited there in the Ration world, as it's a wealth of information and the forum is just where everyone grows together. Without further ado, let's get on with the interview. Hey Kman, how you doing?
Hey there, thanks for having me here. So to let you know a little bit about myself. So yes, I did start the MREinfo.com website. It's not my full-time job. I do actually have a real job. I am a computer network engineer consultant. So I do a lot of IT stuff during the day, but in the rest of my time, I like to work on the MRE info stuff and work with the community there. So, one of the questions people ask, of course, is how did you get started in this? What made you want to start this website? And I'd be happy to kind of give you some of the history.
Yeah,
where it came from and why.
That is exactly one of the questions I've got here is why did you start the website? What made you do it? What inspired you?
Right. So I would say it all started back around Y2K. So, the whole year 2000 stuff that was going on, people were worried. It's like, oh my gosh, are all the computers going to crash? Are we going to have, no electricity, no food and all that? So, in the run up to that, in the late 1990s, of course, I started looking into emergency preparedness. Right. And just to see what was out there. And one of the things that had always fascinated me, not having served in the military myself, were MREs. So I had been to a lot of gun shows and things like that. And at the gun shows, besides all the weapons, you also see military surplus stuff. And I always saw these little mystery brown bags that said MREs. And at the time, the ones I was looking at, those were the dark brown ones, right? Those are the ones at the shows. So you look at those things like, wow, it's got this, military stenciling on them. It says some kind of food. What could it be? And so it was, intrigued, right? So in the run up to Y2K, I started looking for, information on those. Like, hey, maybe that's something I need to start, getting some of. So let me find out what I can about it. And keep in mind, we're still in the early days of the web.
Yeah.
People were just now getting off of dial-up modems and actually getting real internet connections. And so the web was a pretty young thing, and there wasn't a lot of information out there about MREs. So I just started digging, computer geek by the day, and just did all my digging at night and tried to find what information I could, looking up eBay auctions, looking up sources, military websites where they had things published, and trying to find menus, and kind of one thing led to another. And, this is after Y2K, of course. Yeah. This was just, I was getting all this information, and then Y2K happened, and fortunately there was nothing too bad. And I'm sitting on top of all this information, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with all this? There's nothing out there right now. Why don't I just start a website? Right. And I put it out there for everyone to be able to access that information. So it was new for me. I hadn't really done websites before, so it was a chance to learn something new and get something useful out there. So that's what I did, and put the first version of the website together and got it out there for everyone, and just thought, okay, well, there it is. I got it done.
Taking the information.
Right. And this was about, I'm guessing about the year 2001.
Right.
Or so. So, I continued on and I had this new hobby, right? So I'm still kind of obsessed with collecting information about them. And I've started to order more MREs off of eBay. And, the more MREs you get, especially when you don't have the information, you like to get them, open up the cases, take pictures, catalog the contents, get that information out there. It's kind of a, never ending cycle. So kept working on this, and it was kind of interesting. I didn't know what to expect in terms of traffic to the site or other people that might be interested. But sure enough, I would get emails from people saying, hey, thanks for the website. This is really useful, all that stuff. And then, this went on for maybe a few years. It was pretty low key. And then there were a couple of people that had started corresponding with me via email a little bit more. And one of the guys would tell me like, hey, you really should start a forums.
Right.
You start a bulletin board so people can talk about this stuff. And I'm like, who wants to talk about this stuff? I mean, this is just like a hobby. I'm just looking at rations. I'll put the information up. That's good enough. But this guy, and his name is Dave, and I'm still a friend of mine, he wouldn't let go. He kept harping on me. Oh, come on. You got to get the forums up. You got to get the forums up. And finally, after a year or so of this, I'm like, fine. Look, I'll put the forums up. Just stop bugging me. And,
just shut up.
Exactly. But, he was nice about it. But then I guess it was maybe 2004, 2005. Hey, it's another IT project, right? I can go in there and try to figure out how to set up forums. So that's what I did. I set up the forums and thought, okay, well, here you go. Now the 3 people that are interested are going to be able to go in there and talk about rations. And good gosh, did that place just way more people than I ever thought would join in. Start off a few here, a few there, up to 20, 30, 40 people. And not just people like, me here in the US and my buddy Dave, who's also in the US, but we started getting people from all around the world.
Yeah.
People from the UK, people from Germany, people from Canada, of all places, started joining. And it turns out this kind of little ration collection hobby appealed to a lot of people all over the place. And so to me, that was kind of the birth of the community. And it just went crazy from there. I guess the way you explain things took off with the forums. We had a nice little community that was developing. And keep in mind, we're talking 2005. Let's say this is the period 2005 to 2009, 2010, right?
Yeah.
Forums are growing. People are interested. eBay's hopping with MREs. I mean, they're still to the point where you can actually buy them for decent prices.
Yeah.
Things, just crazy stuff. Like MCIs would come up for auction and they don't go for $500.
Yeah.
You can get cases sub $100. International rations were just starting to pick up then. And then this weird thing happened. YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube had been around for a while. There were cat videos up here and there. And then just kind of out of the blue, people started doing these ration reviews. And of course, the man, Steve, 1989, was actually one, I think he was the second person to join the forums back in the day. Steve got into it, started doing his video reviews. And I was never one myself to do YouTube. You see, I've got there's an MRE info channel, but there's really there's no content on there I produce. This was just part of my, I would get information about MREs and put it on the website. And then also if I ran across a video, I might upload the video or I might link to it somehow. So that was the extent of my YouTube account. And just never really, this is me, right? I started the forums. I didn't see what YouTube could be like. Right. I didn't quite understand that draw. But thank goodness there were people like Steve, people like G. Schultz, all those guys, Old Smoky, that kind of took up that mantle and said, hey, let's do this. And then, I thought the forums exploded. And then, oh my gosh, the way YouTube exploded was just crazy with the popularity. And people that weren't even that interested in rations would find themselves sitting there watching reviews like, oh, what's this crazy person doing opening up these rations and eating them on camera? But there's an appeal to it. I mean, there's appeal for all types of people that grew up with them, people that served in the military, people that just are interested in food, or people that are just attracted to the personalities that do this stuff. But hey, this is entertaining kind of TV. So
yeah, I mean, for myself, previous job I used to work 24-hour night shift rotations. I'm also in the IT game, and one night, just out pure boredom, on YouTube's homepage, and one of Steve's videos popped up, eating something from 1957 or something like that. And I just clicked on it to pass some time, and I thought, wow, this guy's crazy. And I thought, and then before I knew it, I was watching nearly all videos on his channel over the period of the week. I was watching all the other guys, and like B Temple, Steve, Old Smoky,
Gun Dog,
yeah, exactly. And your mind explodes. I mean, for you, when you saw these guys start uploading these videos, did you see a massive increase to your website?
I would say, yeah, definitely. I mean, there was that first wave when I started the forums and people were coming in, and then YouTube really started the second wave, which was just overwhelming. I think we're up to about 3,300 members in the forums right now.
Wow. So
something like 82,000 posts, and it kept just growing and growing. Definitely spurred a lot of interest. And, it was never my intention to be the center of the ration universe. Right. Yeah. And I still don't think it is. I think the community is kind of the center of that universe. I'm just glad that I could contribute with the website and provide a place where people can go in and chat about that. And then, and then it kind of links off into the YouTube community. The YouTube community is almost a self-sustaining community at this point, right? Yeah. Because there's some people on there that are big fans of all the people doing MRE videos, and they hadn't heard of MRE info, which I thought was interesting. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I mean, there's this whole ecosystem there on YouTube. So
it is. It's its own sort of living, breathing being, isn't it? YouTube. I mean, you've got there's on YouTube. You've got sets of different people. You've got sets that are doing it for the hobby, and they're just putting it on camera. You've got people that are doing it to, get like yourself with the website, get the information out there in a place where it's accessible for a long period of time. And then you've got people that, not necessarily in the Russian community, but generalization, YouTube using it as a money making tool, as an income basically.
Oh yeah, and that's been the most amazing thing to me are the people that are able to actually make a living off of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I would love to make a living off MRE info, but that's not in the cards, right? No. I mean, I like to say make enough money for it to pay for the website hosting, and that's fine because it's not a moneymaker. But those guys that have been able to do it, that's amazing to me. Just the whole business behind that, and of course, like I've heard you mention in some other interviews, I mean, it's fraught with a lot of stress, a lot of challenges for those content creators. You go a couple of days without posting a video, and all of a sudden you got fans saying, "Hey, where's the video? Where's the next video?"
Yeah,
and that pressure to film. You film 3 or 4 hours of a review, and then you got to spend 12 hours editing it down. It is not, it's not easy work. So I'm definitely happy for those that can make a go of it.
Definitely, and the other thing that I noticed with some of these is that the bigger creators, you're basically putting your life online on YouTube. And you open yourself up to a lot of criticism, sometimes abuse, which is a sad part of the YouTube community or in general, which I suppose is you're going to get no matter what happens, which is, as I say, is sad. But I mean, for you personally, when did you start? I mean, obviously, you're saying you started off with the fairness for Y2K, etc., etc. But I mean, when did you start with the foreign rations? How long after that? What was your first one, if you can even remember?
Oh gosh, I mean, it would have been pretty soon. I mean, right away when I started the website, it started off just looking for information about US MREs, but then of course, I heard about Canadian IMPs. I heard about the ORPs from the UK. I heard about the EPAs from Germany, the RCIRs from France. So pretty much right away, I knew the stuff was out there. There weren't that many available on. Let me think, on eBay. I'm trying to think what some of the first ones I've had. And it was interesting because I recently moved.
Right.
Got a new job, moved further south. I'm actually down in Florida now. And so in the process of packing up, I had to pack up all my rations, right? So I have a much better idea what I have. And now that I think about it, I would say probably some cases of IMPs were some of the first I got. And I actually, at the very early stages, I got some cases of German EPAs.
Right.
And I'll tell you a funny story behind that one. This must have been, it was about, let's say, it was a little bit later. So let's say it was about 2006 or so that I found these German EPAs.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about these were from, the pack date was like 2003.
Wow.
And I don't know if you remember Hurricane Katrina in the US around 2005, really huge storm, took out New Orleans, really bad situation all around. Lots of, FEMA, that's when FEMA really started giving away MREs to people for food. And they hadn't really done that before. So that was a big thing. And apparently one of the things that happened was Germany said, hey, we want to help. And they sent over like a plane load full of EPAs.
Oh, wow.
Which is like, hey, that's really nice, right? Except for one little problem: importing food into the US, which, as you know, is, especially today, is a big problem.
Yeah.
Well, back then, the Germans just kind of sent these EPAs over without getting all the proper import licensing and inspections and this and that. But it's like, it seems crazy, right? I mean, here's the food they're giving to their soldiers, but it's not good enough to, hand out to people desperate for food in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Seems crazy, but apparently the EPA's made it over here and somebody said, look, you can't distribute them. You just got to get rid of them. And so apparently these EPAs fell off a truck somewhere between the airplane and where I lived, and somebody was selling them on eBay. So I picked up a few cases.
Yeah.
So that was
just bounced off.
Exactly. So that was one of my first exposures to some of the foreign rations, but definitely I'm sure it had to start somewhere between the EPAs and the IMPs and the ORPs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the IMPs would be best for you, easiest for you, because obviously it's just across the board, and I assume this may be a wrong assumption that the imports are a little bit easier in Canada.
At the time, I mean, it's tough to say. I actually the best delivery I got of the British rations I got from a soldier over in, I think it was Iraq.
Oh, wow.
At the time, I don't know. I can't remember if he had it up on eBay or where I heard about it from. It might be someone just contacted me out of the blue.
Yeah.
And said, "Hey, I've got like a case of British rations. Do you mind? I said, "Hey, I'll give you $60 for them or something, ridiculous like that." I mean, I wasn't trying to lowball him. That's all he wanted. And so he sent me this case, and I mean, it took about a month or two to get over there, but I got the case, and it was like all sandy and everything from the outside, but.
A bit of the country included free of charge.
Exactly. So yeah, that was my first big score of those. And then after that, it was just whatever I could find through eBay or trading with other people.
Yeah. I mean, I found some rations in some very unlikely places. So I managed to pick up a case for B Temple not so long ago. And it turned out that it was a trucker in the UK that used to be in the ex-military, and it was just a box of rations that he left the military with. And they've been bouncing around in his lorry, and then they were stored at this quarry for a year before the boss just said we'll get rid of them.
Right.
But it's just, they come up in the most weirdest of places.
And that's part of the fun of collecting these things, right? Is because a lot of times there's a story behind the rations. For me, it was German rations that were sent over for Katrina, or it might be a soldier that sent them over from Iraq. I had another guy contact me one time, and unfortunately this deal fell through, so don't get excited.
Oh.
But he was in Alaska, very cold Alaska. And he had one of those outdoor storage containers, like the kind you put on a truck.
Yeah.
That was apparently full of MCIs.
Oh, wow.
I just thought, holy moly. I mean, you talk about holy grail rations.
Yeah.
And that would be MCIs stored in Alaska. And I was
getting much better storage.
Exactly. I was trying everything I could to get some of those, but he went dark and I never heard from him again.
It's always the saddest thing when, someone you get partway through like that, and then they just disappear off the face of the earth as they were. It can cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, true. But you know what? It's better they fall through then than when you send them money and then you never hear from them again.
That being very true. That being very true. I mean, going back to what you're saying about eBay prices earlier on, I mean, obviously seeing on the forums and chat groups and that, how much, as from the year 2000 prices to now, it's crazy. I mean, even OLPs over in the UK used to be able to pick up, when they were the boxes rather than the bags, you used to be able to pick up a case, £6, something in that nature. Now you're lucky if you get them for 100.
Oh yeah,
it's just gone mental. I think we've had COVID, etc., and there's been shortages around the world, etc. So I don't know whether that's. I assume it's had an impact on the pricing of these because people are hoarding stuff.
I think it's that, and I think it's also just the market. I mean, there's a bigger market for these things now, and frankly, if that's what people are willing to pay for them, that's kind of what they're worth, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes when I look on eBay or something, I see the price stuff's going for. It's out of most people's league.
And that's where you got to get creative, right? So even though if you look on eBay right now for MREs, you're going to find them for, let's say, $100 a case.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, it includes shipping, right? But it's still going to be pretty pricey. But just a couple of years ago, when I lived in North Carolina, there was like a little Army Navy kind of surplus store out in the middle of nowhere. And we went by that place one day just to check it out. And they had cases of MREs for, I think it was $40 a case.
Wow.
It's just a couple of years ago when MREs are going for 80 plus. So, you just have to get creative. They show up on, in the US, there's Craigslist, show up on maybe Facebook Marketplace, and they're going to be on eBay, but you're going to pay that premium on eBay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
We've all got used to doing the online shopping and having it delivered to your front door rather than going out and doing the legwork, as it were, to pick these up. So that's a good tip, actually. I think I'll have to try and visit a few around here.
Yeah. In fact, I remember back in the day, just as eBay was starting to take off and I was starting to look for more, rations from other countries, that one of the things I started doing was, so I'm in the US, so I would go to ebay.com. I would start going to ebay.co.uk. I go to ebay.fr.de.
Yeah.
And that was a whole different selection of things that they had over there. And, it hadn't quite taken off in those countries at the time. So it was still possible to maybe find a deal or find some things you wouldn't find on the US eBay.
Exactly. I mean, being in the UK before Brexit, we used to be able to get everything from Europe continent over, no taxes, fairly decent shipping. Right. Nah, forget it. It's just a pain in the bum to do anything that's remotely, in Europe at the moment, unless you can, whoever's posting it to you wraps it in birthday present paper and puts chocolate in with it. It's just not that I'm advocating that to, if anyone's listening, to false documentation, disclaimer.
Yes.
I assume that, you have to get creative with the paperwork. So,
and that's, and you make a good point too. As the hobby has grown and more people are doing it, there are, the governmental agencies are starting to crack down on importing a food and doing it the right way. So
exactly,
that is one of the side effects of it becoming pretty popular.
I mean, I did see an eBay ad, and it was being from US to UK, and they were saying we'll only ship vegetarian menus or something like that to other countries due to the import issues we've had, getting into those countries. And as sad as it is, because you sometimes you miss quite big things doing it like that, which is pretty sad.
But it's kind of the way it is.
Unfortunately.
You got to be careful when you're sending stuff and receiving stuff overseas.
Oh, most definitely. So, I mean, obviously you've had a lot of rations. There's no doubt about it. But what has been your absolute favorite?
So a lot of categories there we can go through, but for me personally, being in the US, if you ask me like my favorite MRE of all time, that's going to be the spaghetti MRE.
Right. Okay.
And I think that goes down to the whole theory behind why they do MREs like they do them, is because first and foremost, the food that they give the military is what they call a force multiplier, right? You got to have healthy troops. You got to have well-fed troops to be able to go out there and do their job. So first, the food's got to be healthy, nutritious, and they are some serious people they have working on the nutrition for those things. Yep. Some people may think, oh, these guys they're just throwing together whatever. Let's put crackers in here and let's put spaghetti in here. And no, I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes behind that, like deadly serious thought. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But besides having nutritious food, you want food that people are going to eat. It doesn't do you any good if you give them, 1,300 calories worth of an MRE if they only eat 500 calories of it. And so they put in there things people like. And for me, going back to when I was a kid, one of the popular things in the US was this Chef Boyardee spaghetti, just spaghetti and meat sauce in a can.
Right.
And that's pretty much exactly what MRE spaghetti tastes like. So you have fond memories of it when you crack open that package and you smell it and you taste it. It kind of brings you back to childhood and makes you want to eat it all. So for me, that would be the spaghetti one.
Okay.
Definitely. Now, if you want to talk, beyond US MREs, and you think about, what else do you like? I mean, I like trying them all, right? First of all, so it's hard to say there's, unless one is just particularly disgusting. But other ones I'm really fond of would be, of course, be the Canadian IMPs. And to me, that's because they're so similar to the US MREs, but they're just a little bit different. Right. It's kind of like you stepped into an alternate reality. It looks like an MRE. It's a single meal in a bag. But it's packaged a little bit differently, but it's the same sort of retort pouch. They actually have real bread instead of that wheat snack bread.
Yeah.
So, very similar food that I'm used to. Beyond the IMPs, of course, there'd be the British ORPs.
Yeah.
Those things, and that's different, right? Because, at the time that was, a full day's worth of food.
Exactly,
so the packaging was different. I like, that kind of food. It was, a lot of it was new, but it was still a little bit similar.
Yep.
So those I've always been most fond of in terms of the international ones. But of course, everything else. I mean, the French RCIRs, good flavor all around. Definitely stuff I normally wouldn't eat in there. The Italian rations, the German rations. I mean, it's all more different. But in terms of favorite, if I was sitting down and actually had to eat something for a meal because it's an emergency, probably go to one of the MREs or IMPs, let's say.
That's cool. So that's your favorite. What's your most hated menu ration?
Most hated, it's definitely got to be the vomelet.
Yeah.
So the veggie and cheese omelet goes down as the lung in a bag, the most disgusting one you could have. Now, and I would say, yeah, that's the worst. Though there is another one that holds a special place in my heart, and that's the Country Captain Chicken. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't. No.
Okay, so this was a menu from, let's say early 2000s, mid 2000s, something like that. It's actually really good. It's like a chicken breast with some pasta sauce and some other things in it.
Right.
So that all by itself is fine. The only problem is they put almond slices in there. Wow. And I'm a very, let's call it tactile eater.
Right.
Like I like the feel of the food in my mouth. And so I like the feel of the chicken breast and the sauce, but man, what are you doing throwing crunchy sliced almonds in there?
That is a weird choice.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? If you actually Google for Country Captain Chicken, it's like a legitimate American recipe. It's not just something they made up.
It's not just random. There's a mistake at the factory.
It's like it's something they used to make in some part of this country that involved putting little slices of almonds on there. So, I'll still try it. I'll still eat it, but it hurts me to eat it. It's like, oh, I can't stand chewing on this. But at least it's not disgusting like the vomelet. I mean, that's just a crime against nature.
I suppose in an emergency, if you're faced with the two menus, you know which one you're going for rather than not.
Yes, that crackers and cheese spread and peanut butter and do without.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave the rest alone. Just push it to one side. So, I mean, what's the ration you haven't been able to get hold of yet, but you constantly checking eBay for, your local forum, like Facebook and forums for sale? What's that unicorn one for you?
Well, if you're talking about ones that I really want to get, it's all the new stuff. Right. So it's the newest MREs, the ones from this year. It's the new IMPs, the new British rations, the new everything. And that stuff's always hardest to get, right? Because the stuff generally isn't circulated to the civilian populations. Heck, it's not even circulated to the military populations, right? Because they've got stockpiles of older stuff they try to work through.
Exactly.
So that if you ask me what I'm constantly looking for, that's what it is.
The newest stuff. Right.
But if you want to talk true unicorn rations, for me, kind of two things. There's the unicorn that I might be able to catch, and that'd be an MCI that's edible.
Right. Okay.
Right. That's back to my story about the guy in Alaska who had the trailer load full of MCIs that were frozen. That would have been great, because I've bought a large number of MCI cases over the years, and there's been parts of them that are edible. Certainly the crackers, sometimes the peanut butter, but in general, any kind of the fruit or the entrees are going to be pretty bad. In fact,
by now,
I bought about 6 cases of MCIs, kind of sight unseen, right? Stupid low price, and I figured, it's worth it. I didn't know the exact dates. It was going to be early 70s, and I thought it's going to be worth it just to have the parts and to go through it. Yeah. And let me tell you what a horror show that was. I mean, these things had just all exploded 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe. And it just been sitting there in the case decomposing for the past, couple of decades. Nice. So it was really bad. There were some parts that were salvageable, but it was just from pure forensic analysis. We're talking cases that were still banded with the metal bands, being able to cut those open it up and just see what happened.
And it all just comes out in one block when you turn it over, because it's all just dried together.
Yeah, it was incredibly disgusting. So, but again, so that was, that would be the MCI. If I could find an MCI in super good condition that you could actually eat, that would be something amazing. And then, of course, there's the unreachable unicorn, the golden unicorn that I'll probably never see, which is a K ration, right? Something from World War II. And I've seen Steve open them, and maybe even probably knowing Steve even trying them, but those things there's no way they hold up over time.
No, and I've seen a number of fakes appear on eBay over the last couple of years, which, until you look at the text right at the bottom, it says this is a reproduction.
Right. And even, reproduction rations done right can still be similar, but it's just not, because we're going in for that historical authenticity, right? We want to know exactly what it was. And the stuff that we see in magazines, that we see in movies, what was it really like? I mean, that's part of the draw to the hobby, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're recording or documenting history. That's one of the reasons behind it. We're all I'm assuming we're all kind of history buffs at some point. We like, in your case, collecting the information, aggregating the data and putting it somewhere so people haven't got to go searching, like spending hours and hours searching for that bit of information. You've done that, you're giving it to the world. Some people are doing it purely for the historical basis of recording it, so future generations can view this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so a
exactly.
reproduction, it has its uses, in the filming world, etc. But as you say, we want the real deal. We want the real McCoy. We want to smell the real stuff, taste it, and end up in hospital.
Exactly.
Afterwards, feel the real wax and stuff, because you can reproduce it to a certain level. Don't get me wrong. Reproductions can be done extremely well, but there's something that's still holding it in your hand, knowing it is that old and it's possibly been over to World War II, like over to France, Germany, or whatever, hasn't been eaten for whatever reason, has been shipped back, or just never made it out of there, but it was produced during the World War II sort of time frame, which is a special thing all in its own right, I think.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, every old ration that you pick up is like a little time machine. It kind of transports you back to that period, and it's a small piece of the history of what was going on, but it's a piece you can relate to because we can all relate to food. Exactly. And then you relate to the people that were in those situations. And, this was what dinner was. This is what you had to eat at the time, whether you're, sitting in a barracks somewhere, sitting in a trench somewhere, whatever you were doing, this was your connection to, staying alive by keeping yourself fed.
Yeah. And it's sometimes it feels like an honor, especially something that old, or that rare. It feels like an honor that you're the person that's able to, document it, talk about it, experience it. But then I suppose there's a great pressure on that person that's got that item to make sure that the camera's correct, or if they're doing camera, or the photos are clear, and you get all the information you can. You can always guarantee that somebody's going to ask you a question. You think, damn it, I didn't look that up, or try to do that.
Yeah, and which is where the really good YouTubers do the best job, or just not just the people that have the good camera setups, to show you what they're doing, but the ones that can describe what they're tasting, what it feels like, not just like, oh, this smells good.
Yeah.
What it reminds them of, like, oh, what's that? There's like a musty odor. There's a bitterness to this taste. Stuff that Steve does well, stuff that Old Smoky does great. They know how to translate what they're feeling, what they're tasting into something that people can, because for better or worse, people can't smell it, in the video.
No.
So
and I
can
think
describe it.
Some of Steve's videos, I'm kind of glad you can't smell it, if I'm being honest with you. Especially when he says, I'm getting the gloves and the respirator out, okay. Yeah, I'm glad there's no smell-o-vision. It's not been invented yet.
That's taking one for the team.
Yep. Yeah, thank you very much. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about the hobby and how it's changed since the start? But I know we've roughly touched on it. But I mean, where do you see it going? Do you see it growing even more? Do you see it slowing down? I mean, obviously you've got access to the stats of the website, but are you seeing it still grow? Do you think it will still grow? Do you think we're going to start leveling off? What's your thoughts?
Well, I would say, on the one hand, I'm probably one of the worst people you could ask about that, because I'm the guy who missed the YouTube revolution, right? I'm in IT. I'm doing stuff on the web. How can I not see that this was going to be a big thing, right? So, what's it going to be like in the future? Yeah, probably the wrong person to ask. But I'll tell you my own personal feelings about that. I'm seeing, so it's been, let's call it 20 years since I've been doing this. And I saw that huge initial influx of people. I saw pretty much the community being started from the ground up by all these people getting together. You're starting to see people cycle out of that community. Some people get into it and they're just into it for a few months or a year or two. Some people are in it for 5, 6, 7 years, and then they kind of fade away. Life gets in the way, other things happen. Some people are in it for the long haul, but all along this way, all along this journey, new people are coming in. I mean, I think when, some of the people that I know in the community, they got started when they were just still teenage kids.
Yep.
And then now they're in their 30s. So, and some of them are influential people doing this work in the community, and some people have just moved on. So I think as a trend, or I think the numbers are constantly going up. Now, how is it trending up? Is it more people coming in than going out? I can't really answer that, but I know the interest is still out there. Every day, people are discovering these things on YouTube. They're discovering it in the forums.
Yeah.
And, new people are, rotating in and out of the military with the, experiencing this stuff firsthand.
Exactly. And I suppose, for the current soldiers, military personnel, their key is they're hopefully tasting something that reminds them of home. So I'm hoping they have some pleasurable emotions attached to these rations, even though it may not be in the best place. So that's when they, as you said, they come out of it and they still enjoy talking about them and having a joke about them, etc.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that they probably have fonder memories over time.
Yeah,
I get some emails and some notes from people about how, like, oh yeah, I used to, I served 20 years ago, and I remember when we had these MCIs, or I remember when we had these MREs, and now they kind of have some fond memories. And as opposed to stuff that I get from people who have just most recently served, which is when their response a lot of the times is, if I never see one of these things again, it'll be too soon. Because it was associated with perhaps hardship and difficulty. So, and not having anything better to eat. And no matter how tasty it is, if that's the only thing you have to eat, and that's the only thing you have to eat for weeks at a time, probably not going to have too fond of memories for it right away. Eventually, but there are some people, I will say, it's a smaller number of people, but I do get people that are recently out of the military. It's like, oh yeah, I love those things.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess all service personnel have that favorite menu, and have that menu that they just shudder whenever they see it. Just like you and your vomit.
Exactly. They know better.
Yeah, they just throw it away. I'm just not eating today. It's easier. Obviously you said you don't do reviews or videos, but what's the hardest part for you running MREinfo.com? What is the hardest part?
Oh, I think the hardest part for me is like it is with a lot of other people that do this stuff for YouTube and whatever else. It's just the time. You're doing this. Usually you have another job and you're kind of doing this on the side. And, frankly, sometimes when I started the website, there wasn't that much information. So it was easy to get it all into one place and present it. And now it's just a wealth of information out there.
Yeah.
So what it takes to gather that, coordinate it. And I mean, you could spend all your time just doing that, but then you also have to present it. And that's been the biggest challenge for me, and still is to this day, is finding that right balance.
Of course.
Getting content out there and staying current.
Yeah, because it's constantly changing, isn't it? And I suppose you can be bombarded with updates of information to put onto the menu page. And did you say it could be a full-time job on its own, just keeping up with current affairs of the ration world? Because obviously you don't just concentrate on US, you've got the whole world, and that's always changing under current times, shortages, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can understand that must be quite a big draw. And of course you've got your life as well to get on with your job and stuff.
You got a job, you got family, you got you're supposed to be actually fixing things around the house during the weekend, and
sometimes your computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I sat in front of my computer all week working, and now I'm going to sit in front of my computer all weekend working too. That doesn't go over so well.
That's the question I always get from people. You sat in front of a screen for 8 hours a day, yet when you come home, you still find 2-3 hours to do stuff on the computer. So yeah, but I'm doing my stuff now. I'm not working. I'm doing the bits that I need to do.
Right. You don't have to do it. You want to do it. And there's a big difference.
Yeah. Although sometimes it's usually someone's broken their computer in my friends or family, and it's, can you fix it?
We all have to do that, right? That's
it's the unofficial IT support, I think.
Exactly.
It comes from. Well, I think, from the question point of view, that's everything that's popped up on the forums and any chat channels. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring to the interview? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, there's one more thing I neglected to mention earlier.
Yeah.
When we talk about what the community is made up of, there's my website, there are the forums, There are the YouTube channels. There's another piece that actually developed within the past 5 or 6 years, and that's the MRE meetups. Are you familiar with those?
I am, yeah. I mean, there was supposed to be one in the UK, but it never materialized. Everyone just sort of went quiet, which was quite a shame. And then COVID hit, so we didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you guys in the US used to have one on a regular occasion.
Well, we've had 2 so far. We had one in, I think it was Doswell, Virginia in about 2015.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2017, 2018, we had another one in Kentucky. And those are great. I mean, that is a whole nother kind of evolution of the community, which is getting to see these people in person. And I think every single person that I met, like actually meet in person, not just, chatting on the phone like this or chatting, on the forums or seeing them on YouTube channels. Every one of those people you make that much more of a connection with.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, like I'll pull an example out of the air. Like Smitty, who I know you did an interview with. He was at the most recent meetup we did in Kentucky. So I met Smitty and CT there in person, and I'd been familiar with their work before. But if I hadn't met them in person, you got that image of that person in your head, and you've shared food with them, you've talked, you've shared ideas. Takes it to a whole nother level.
Almost.
And it's always funny because when you go to these meetups, in general, a lot of us in this community, maybe we don't get out as much, like me, I can sit around the computer all day long, like, doing my work. Right. But I still have to go out and talk to people, but not everybody does. And so it's kind of awkward when you go to these meetups at first.
Yeah.
It's almost like you go to a dance and everyone's sitting on a chair.
Like you first day of school.
They're all looking around at each other, and all the meetups always start off like that. And you give them about an hour, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden people are talking. People are getting to know each other. People are opening up, and then it's just wonderful. So that's another evolution to the community that I'd love to see happen more. It's just unfortunately a lot more difficult to do because now, we can all get together online in the forums or looking at YouTube, but get together in person, just in the US. Are you on the East Coast or the West Coast? Are you're going to have it over in the UK? We're going to have it over in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I suppose the other thing is that quite a few of the reviewers, or even on the forum, you've sometimes heard their voices, never seen their face. So it's nice to put a voice to a face. It just adds that extra, as you say, that whole other level to the community feeling.
I can't even emphasize it enough. I mean, when I'll give you an example. Old Smokey does a live stream pretty much every Saturday, and he usually has, let's say, 70 to 80 people on there, and I've maybe met 20 of the people in person, and it's such a different experience when you see that person's name go by. It's like, oh, I know that person, and I've met the others. I've maybe emailed with the others. So there's some kind of relationship there, but it's that personal relationship that you get, which, for me, like I keep saying, is kind of the next level of that community. So I think given a choice, I think everybody should try to get to a meetup if we can ever have them again with this COVID stuff going on.
Yeah, if we ever allow that to play again.
Right. But in the meantime, we take advantage of the resources we do have. So I think it's great. I think it's people that I would not normally run across in life that they do all sorts of different jobs that I would never see. And you got this shared interest and you get to know them all.
Exactly. It's a strange thing that there is such a broad spectrum of jobs, but we all have the same interest of rations. Obviously we've got some construction workers, we've got a couple of teachers, obviously IT, and there's landscape gardeners and stuff like that. So it's as you say, it's a very wide spectrum of people, but we all share this common interest of rations. And as you say, it's quite a nice thing to meet up and have that community go that little bit further.
Oh yeah. So if anything, that makes me happy that I've been able to contribute my little part to it. And again, just thankful for everyone in the community that contributes what they do. I mean, thanks to you for what you're doing with these podcasts.
Oh, well, thanks very much.
So just getting the word out to everybody.
Yeah, which just hopefully we'll keep going and make a more episodes, and maybe we can start doing live streams, as I said earlier on, just before we came on to you, and get more people involved together and get some more chat avenues going.
Yep,
So-
you never know where it's going to go next. That's one thing I've learned.
Well, you know that better than anybody else, I think. It's easy to say. So, I mean, that's it from me. I just want to say it's been an honor talking to you, Kman. It's been absolutely fantastic and a great insight to how you started and what we've all known to love, which is the MREinfo.com forum. So, thanks everyone for listening. That's goodbye from me, and I'm going to say goodbye from Kman. And check in for the next one. Thanks, guys.